Hello and welcome back to V8 TechWorks. So in our last video, we created our backend and we finished working on our backend here. And now we are going to continue building this application. So today we are going to start building this exciting part here that we are calling background services. So I'm going to take this line here and cancel this part. And if you can see here, you can be able to see that this is a backend, and you can see it is larger than these background services, and this is because background services is just a small service and or a small backend. So I'm going to continue building now background services, and you'll see how similar it is to our backend here. So another thing that I want us to do is to make sure that we create another branch here for our GitHub. So I'm going to do, first of all, git branch here, and you can see we have two branches right now. We have a branch that is called master, and also we have a branch that is called backend. So here we are going to create another branch, and this time this one we are going to call it background services. So I'm going to do git branch, and here I'm going to add background services as my branch, like that. And when I do git branch again, you'd be able to see that we are having three branches. We have our backend, we have our background services, and we have our master. So to go to to switch to background services, we need to do git and then check out and then background, and then we are going to use background services right here, like that. And if I do git branch here now, you'd be able to see now our background services here is highlighted using green. So that means we are working on this branch right here. So before I continue, remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel and also like this video. And now let's get into the tutorial. So now we can come back here to our code, and one thing that I notice is that when we are trying to run our backend here, we have this error here that says that we don't have this function called get prospect here. And that is true, because if you come here into prospect here, you'll be able to see that we don't have get all prospect. You can see here it is prospect, so I need to change here when I'm importing or exporting this. Here we need to have all prospect, like that. And then if I need also to change this in our routes here, so let me just come here into our routes, and I'm going to change this to prospects, like that. I think that will be okay. So this one will be get all prospects, like that. I think this will handle now my error. So I'm going to come here and restart. Let me restart my backend. So even if I save like that and then I save this part here, you are going to see that here starting node, and then you can see it is starting my server, and you can see now server is running on port 8000, database connected successfully. So if you haven't, or you are not able to at least correct that error, make sure that you have gone with me through that process of changing that function, so that you understand what you are going to do in case of that error. So now I want to close this part that is called backend, and now we can continue building now our background services. For now, you can see our background services here is empty, and that's where we are now starting to build our background services. So I'm going to come here to this part here and add another terminal here, so that we are going to get into my background services. So I'm going to get into background services. So I'm going to background services, and another thing is that here I'm going to initialize another node application, because it's our backend. Also background services is part of a backend, or is a small backend. So I'm going to do init and then -y right there, and then you'll be able to see that there's a file that will be generated called package.json, and you can see it here. So inside here also I'm going to add index.js, like that. So, and then inside here we are going to at least install some packages that we are going to use in our background services. So the first thing that I'm going to install, of course, is Express, because we are going to use that framework. Another package that we are going to use is node mailer, because here we are going to send emails, scheduled email. And another package that I'm going to use is .env. I'm going to use a package that is called node cron, and this will help us to be able to make sure that we schedule some task. Another thing is that now we can also add mongoose, because we are going to at least make sure that we connect with our database. I think these are enough, but remember another one called EJS, and EJS will help us to template our emails. So another one that I'm going to add, I think these are enough. So I'm going to install this, and inside here, also in our background services, we are going to have a .env file. So we are going to have a .env file right here. And because in our .env file here, we are going to have port, or what I can do is that I'm going to make sure that I get everything from this .env here. So I'm going to get this database. So let me just take database, because that's the only thing that we are going to share with our with our backend. Sorry. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to paste this backend here, this database here. I'm going to save this, and here also I'm going to make sure that I cancel that part, and also this part here. So here already my packages, you can see that they have been installed, and some of you may be asking why I'm copying this database from our backend, and this is because according to the diagram here, you can see we are sharing the same database with our backend, but you can see our background services is only interacting with our database, is not interacting with any other part like front end or this backend here. We are just interacting with our database. So that's why. So I'm going to push this down. So let me just come here, push this down, and here also I'm going to add another variable right here. So this part here is called this one is a port number. So in our backend is running on port 8000. So this one you can give in any port between 0 to 65,355, I guess, but you need it should not run on the same port with our backend. So actually you can just give it a port of 8001. So my backend is running on port 8000, and my background services will be running on port 8001. So another thing is that here, now I can initialize my application. So the first thing that I'm going to do right here is that I'm going to import Express. So import, you're going to require Express here, like that. And again here I'm going to make sure that I have my app. I'm going to create that app here. So this one is another part here that we are going to have. I'm going to import .env because we need to access the variable that we have in our .env. So this one will be require and then .env right here. So let me also come back here to, we have .env, and for .env, I'm going to just write it here, .env.config, because this is very important, like that. And then right here, I think this one is okay now. So another thing that you're going to do now is to try and create our server. So I'm going to have server here. This one we are going to create or get the port number from our .env. So to get the port number, I'm going to have a variable here called port, and again here I'm going to use process.env and then port, like that. That will access the port variable in our .env file. So here I can now initialize app.reason. Now here we need to add the port number, and then again here you need to have this one, this callback function, and inside here this is where we are going to console log So I'm going to console log here, use interpolation. So this one I'm going to write server, or let me just write background services. Background services is running on on I can just make sure that I get now the variable like that using interpolation. And another thing is that now if for example right here, if you didn't install nodemon, make sure that you install nodemon using npm install nodemon like that. But in our case here, I'm going to, because I have installed nodemon globally, I won't be installing nodemon. So here I'm going to run now this index.js and see if our background services is running. So if I restart my server like that, so push this actually up there. So let's see if my background services is running here. So let me save here, and you can see the background services running on port undefined, and that means that it's not able to access this port. So let's see where the problem is. I have done .env config here. So let me just come here and see if I have the port. Yes, I have this port. So I don't know where the problem is. So I'm having the problem here with the port. So this port here. So process.env, let me try use process.env. Let me make sure that I do that again. You can see here is still undefined, and here I'm going to do, let me try a process.env. So process.env and then .port like that, then save that. So let me see, it's still undefined. So let me see if I have installed .env in a big package.json here. So under dependencies here, we are going to see, you can see here we have .env, so that should work. And then index here, this index here, we have imported .env, and we have done .env .env.config, and then I don't know what is the problem here. So but for now, what I can do is that we can just make sure that we add here on, because we are going to make sure to see if there is any problem. So this one I'm going to add here like that. So if I save that, you can see here still undefined. So I think there's some problem. So this is 8,000. I'm going to just give it to be 8,000. We are going to make sure that we are going to debug that in future. So I can still see here, this is port here is undefined. So I think there's somewhere that is, yeah, it is wrong. So let me just add here 8 or 8,000. So 8,001. So let me try that. And then when I save this, still is saying background services running on this part here. So what I can do also is that I can console log here. So let me console.log and then the port. So see where the problem is. So if I do that, and here this one, you can see it is getting the port. So for debugging also we can try and do .env and then .port like that. And let's also save that. Let's save and see. So yeah, it is not able to get my port number. So I think there's somewhere that is wrong. So I'm going to just make sure that I add here that port number right here. So I'm going to write 8001. Also here I'm going to hard code it for now. So if I do this, you'll be able to see that it's running on port 8001. So for now, I won't be able to debug. I'm going to debug later on. So what we are going to do right now is to make sure now also we have connected to our database. So I'm going to have connection to my database, and we are going to call the function to connect to a database right here. So inside here, I'm going to create another folder that is called utils. So utils, and then under utils, we are going to create another file that is called db.js, like that. And here we are going to just copy everything from our database, our backend here. So I'm going to copy this like that. If you don't get what you're doing, make sure that you have gone through the other videos so that you understand. And then here we can be able now to paste this. And then if I save this and go back here, and I'm going to call db connection. So db connection, like that, import that function. You can be able to see that function here. And then I can be able to save this, and let's see if it is working. So the background services is running on port 8000, and you can see here database connected successfully. So that means everything is okay. And I'm wondering why my database here is still working very okay, but my server is not working. So that is not any problem for now. So I think I can just make sure that everything is okay here. So my DB connection has been connected successfully. So I'm going to close this part here. And now the other thing that I want to show you is how to make sure that you can use or you can be able to schedule tasks. So I'm going to have a function here, and I'm going to add here schedule task. So schedule task, task, like that. Here I'm going to have a function. I'm going to call this function const run, like that. And then let's have this function here, and I'm going to call this function down here, and I'm going to show you why I'm doing this. So I'm going to save this, and to schedule task, I want us to go and look for this package that is called node cron. You can be able to see it here. You can read the documentation. So it is here. So you can see the node cron module is a tiny task scheduler in pure JavaScript for Node.js based on GNU cron tab. This module allows you to schedule tasks in Node.js using full cron tab syntax. Need a job scheduler with support for worker threads and cron syntax? Try out the B job scheduler. So you can also look for this one here and see how it works. So here we have this package, and you can see how it works. So the first thing that you need to do is to import it here, and so I need to import it actually up here. So let me just come here and import that. So copy this here. You need to import this con so cron. So I'm going to import it here, but this time this one I'm going to call it to add a const rather than var, because var is kind of outdated in JavaScript. Another thing is that you need to schedule using cron.schedule, and you can see here how you can schedule a task that is running after every minute. For example, here you can see running a task every minute, and you can just copy this here, and I'm going to make sure that I copy it inside here, because you can see right here we have this cron schedule after every minute. And then you can see here how you can also schedule for any task that you want to run at any specific time of the day, of the month, of the year, and everything. So I'm going to make sure that I save this. So let me save this, and when I save this, you'll be able to see here, because you can see here we are not calling this function. So I'm going to make sure that I save this. And another thing is that I want my schedule task to run after every second, because we are not going to wait for every minute to see how this scheduler is working. So to run after every second, I'm going to add my third or sixth this asterisk, and when I save here, you'll be able to see that will be working right here. So let it restart here and connect to database. You can be able to see that this is running after every, now this one is after every second, not after every minute. So I'm going to save this here, and you'll be able to see that this one will be running after every second. So after every second, you can see this is running, or this task is running after every second. And you can run about this documentation. For example, maybe a task that you want it to run after every minute, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can be able to see, let me scroll here, and you can see a task here, how you can schedule a task that is running on Sundays of every January and September. So this is how you can create that this schedule, or this task that is scheduled. So another website that you can use is Crontab Guru. So this one will help you to be able to play with schedulers and to be able to understand how you can create a schedule, because this is a very important concept also, because when you are creating applications, sometimes you find that you need to make them very automatic. So I'm going to just cross that, because we are not going to go through that right now. So make sure that you go through that GrownTab website, and I think that's all in this case. So in our case here for our cron tab, or this scheduler, what we are going to do, we are going to have several services. For example, we are going to have a service that is checking if the donor has stayed 7 or 60 days from the time that they last donated blood, and then it will send a reminder email. So it will be able to calculate 60 days from the time any donor donated blood, and then they will be able to send them email. So it will be running after every second, and then looping through the database, checking for a donor who has stayed at least 60 days, and then send the email. I'm sure that you're getting what I'm trying to add. So here, that's what we are going to do. So for now, I'm going to just make sure that I don't run this function. So I'm not, or I just, let me, to make sure my console is just green, I'm going to just remove that console log. But remember, my background services is still running after every second. Now inside here, I'm going to have other packages or other folders. For example, we are going to have models, and models, we are going to get models from our backend. So another thing is that we are going to have helpers. So helpers, actually here we are going to have a helpers, and here we are going to add a function that we are going to reuse. And also here I'm going to have another one that is email services, because in our application we are going to just have our email services. If you have other services, for example, if you want to backup database, also you can create the service to do that. So that is also another work of scheduler. So what you can do is that you can create a scheduler or a service that is scheduled, that will be saving or backing up the database after every day, or at any day, or every day at night, at midnight. So that is also the way you can use crontab. So now what we can do right now is to start with helpers here, because this is the function that we are going to reuse in our application. So let's do that. So this one, we are going to call it sendmail.js. So I think can call sendmail here, and this one is the function that we are going to reuse in our application, and this will help us to send emails. So I'm going to make sure that I close this one, and also this for the prospect here. I'm going to also make sure that I close this, and or even before that, what I can do is that I can make sure that I copy these models here. So let me create those. For example, for the donor here, let me copy this before I even create helpers in my background services. So I'm going to come here to my background services, and inside here I'm going to create another file here that is called donor.js. So you can see most of things I'm copy pasting from my backend, because that they are having the same things, it's still a backend. So here also I'm going to create one for the prospect. So I'm going to copy this also from my backend here, and in my helpers here I'm going to create another file, and this file is called prospect. So prospect.js, and now we have been left with only one, like that. So let me save this, and here I'm going to have the other one for the user. So let's have for the user. Actually it's not need to create them inside here. So actually I did a mistake, this one should be inside the model. So move that like that, and then now we can create the user here. So user.js, like that. Make sure that you copy that from our backend here. So this one, I'm going to copy it like that, and then make sure that you paste it here. So I'm going to save that, and then inside here I can be able to paste now the model for the user here. So I'm going to save this. So I'm going to close all these files here, and then left with the send email here. So this is where we are going to create now the function that we are going to reuse. So let's do that now. So let's do that. Here there are several things that I need to check. First of all, I want to check if we have Node Mailer, and I can see here that we have already installed Node Mailer package, because that's the package that you are going to use to send emails, and in our case we are going to send emails that are templated already. So I'm going to add here const, and then here we are going to have Node Mailer like that. We are going to import that Node Mailer here. So this is node mailer. I can be able to see it there. I can also be able to create another variable for .env here, and then require, and then this is .env. So you can be able to see it there. And then another thing is we need to do .env and then .config like that. And then here we are going to have another function, and then this function is create transport. So function create transport, so create transport or transporter, sorry. We need to create first of all the transporter, and then this transporter is for sending the email. Here this is a function like that. You need to accept the configurations here. You are going to call them config right now, and if you are not understanding, please go along. We'll be able to understand when we are still coding here. So the first thing you can see here, we have created this transporter here, and this because it's a function that is not arrow function. We should not have this arrow here. So I'm going to create here const transporter. So this is transporter here. I'm hoping that I'm spelling it right. So transporter, and then this one is we are going to create from node mailer, and then dot create transport or create transport right here. So you can be able to see that function. We are going to pass in the configuration that we are getting here as an argument. So after that, now the other thing that you need to do is now return. So let us return transporter like that. And then now the other thing is now we can create another function, or let me first of all have the configurations. So here I'm going to create configurations like that, and these configurations are just object. So the first thing is we are going to have a service here. So the service, we are going to have Gmail. Also, we are going to have another that is host. And then for this host here, we are going to use smtp.gmail, then .com, like that. We are going to have a port. So port here. So for the port here, we are going to use port 587. So make sure that this one, you make sure that they are correct. And the other thing is here we need to have require. So require TLS, like that. And this one we are going to say it's true. And now the other thing that we are going to require is auth. And for the auth here is also an object inside object. And here we need to have the user. So here we are having the user, and this one we are going to get it from our .env. So this one will be process.env and then .email. So this is the email that we are going to use to send emails. So like from, and here also we are going to have password that we are coding pass, and then this one we are going, this one it will be process.env and then password. So password, like that. So these two variables I need to create them in my .env here. So in my .env here I need to have email. So email, like that. And also we need to have password, and this password is app password. So before I continue here, I need to have the email that I want to use. In my case here, I'm going to use the email here that I'm going to send using this email, like that. I'm going to create the password. So let me show you how you create a password. So let me come here to the inbox of my email. So you can see this email right here. I'm going to get to the inbox. So make sure that you're going with me right here. You can stop coding, and then if you don't um, if you don't understand, make sure that you, or if you haven't done this before, make sure that you are going through or along with me. So I'm going to come here. You can see this is the inbox of that email. And again here, I'm going to get to manage. So I'm going to get to manage here. And this one, we are going to get to this part here that you are calling security part here. So the first thing that you need to do is to make sure that you have two-step verification here, or you have multi-factor authentication. Make sure that this part here is ticked, and because this one we require that. Also, the other thing, if you have done that, you need to come here and search for app passwords. So you need to come here, search for app passwords, click on this app password here, and create one here. So before you do that, it will require you to enter the password. So I'm going to enter my password here. So let me now log into my email, like that. And then now you can see I had already created another password here, actually for my Brad bridge here also. So this one I'm going to call it any name. For example, I'm going to call it just maybe full stack email, full stack Brad donation, like that, and then try and create. So if you do that, you'll be able to see that password here. So in this case, I'm going to copy this password here, like that, click done, and then here I'm going to just make sure that I add it here. And another thing is that to make sure that my password is I actually protecting my email, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to delete it, because I don't want somebody to misuse my email. So I'm going to delete it. But you get the idea. That's how you create app password, and to be able to make sure that that password, that email, you can use that email to send emails. So I'm going to close also this one. And now, because we have passwords, so if you try to use this password, because I have deleted, you cannot be able to use it. So make sure that you use your own email. So I'm going to close that, and now we have our email and also now our password. So I'm going to now create a function down here, and this function is send mail. We are going to call it send mail, and then this one is a narrow function. Let's create a narrow function. So if you want to create a function here that is not arrow, this one, you can do that, there's no problem. So here I'm going to push this down, and we are going to first of all get the transporter. So get the transporter. Here we are getting the transporter from now the function. So we need to await, and then here if we await, we need to create a sync here. So this one we are going to get it from, remember our function up there, that is create transporter, and then you are going to pass in the configurations that is up there. So these configurations like that. So if you scroll up here, you'll be able to see these configurations, and that's the one that you are passing here, because also you can see in this function we need to pass the configurations here as argument, and that's what we are doing here. We are just passing them right there. And then now the other thing is we need to await, and then this one we are going to do transporter and then dot verify. So let us verify first of all. So we verify that. Another thing that we do after that is await, and then we are going to send now the email. So we are going to use transporter and then send email. You can be able to see send mail right here. And when we are sending, we inside here we are going to have two arguments. So the first argument is that we need to pass in the message options. So the message option right here, and then this one we need to get it as argument. So message option like that. So this one is message option. Let me just add it like that. So we need to pass in the message options. I'm going to show you what is message options. And then after that, if you pass in the message options, you can have either two things, either error or information. So those are the two things that you are getting. So this is a callback function. So here what we do is that if you have error, then what you need to do is that you need to console log that error. So console.log, and then this is error. So like that. Else, that means that you can console, or you can console log now the information that you are getting if sending the email is successful. So we are going to console log now the info. So you can see how simple it is. So this function here. So I think that is it. We have this part here. Let me add a semicolon that there. So this function called send mail here, we need also to export it because we are going to use it in other parts of services. So this one is send mail. So like that. Okay, actually, yeah, send mail like that. So sending this one will be help us now to use it in our email services here. So we are going to do that in the next video. I don't want this video to be longer than this, but now we have this function. You can go through this function before the other video so that you understand what we are doing right here. Don't don't cram it, just go through it and at least understand what we are doing here in a send mail. And the other thing is that also you can go through the node mailer documentation to understand what I'm doing. You can just come here, look for node mailer, and then go through now the documentation here. Go through, understand what is transporter. You can be able to see up here the usage. You need to install node mailer. You can see you need to create the transporter here. Everything is right here. So just go through that so that you understand. And in the next video, we are going to continue now creating our email services. Before we end the video, what I need to do is that I want to push my code to our GitHub, and let's do that. So I'm going to come here inside my folder that I have my project, and what I can do is that I need to git add everything to start with, and I'm going to commit. So I'm going to add here started, so started working on our background services, like that. And then another thing is now I can push now my branch, so git push origin, and then this one is background services, like that. And then let's try and push it. So I'm going to add my passphrase here, like that. And then let's see now. So I have pushed my code now. If I come here to branch, to my GitHub here, we are going to have a pull request, and I'm going to get to my repo here, get to this full stack broad donation application. And if I do that, you'll be able to see here there is a notification. So compare and pull request, click that, and it will be able to compare and pull requests right there. I'm going to create pull requests, and after that, then it will be able to check for ability to merge automatically. So after that, I'll merge and confirm merge, like that, and then this one will be just fine now. So if you just come back here to the inside and check for the network, you'll be able to see how our networks look like. And if I go back here, you'll be able to see that we have merge pull request, 3 of them. We don't have any open pull request, and no any closed issues, and also new issues are 0. So that is it. I want to end this video here. Remember to like this video and also subscribe to this YouTube channel, and most important, turn on the notification bell so that you'll be notified the next time I upload a new video. See you on the next video. Have a great day.